Hi, my name is Maureen O'Keefe, and I'm a graduate student in the Data Analytics program at Colorado State University at the Global Campus. I'm also an employee at CSU Pueblo. Today's presentation is about the research study that I conducted as my capstone project. During the presentation, I will describe to you the purpose of the project, give you background information, detail the research findings, and share my recommendations for future research. I selected a project from CSU Pueblo as my capstone project. As the Director of Institutional Research, I have access to data and statistical tools to conduct a variety of studies using student data. I selected a project that I thought was long overdue but never rose high enough on the priority list for completion. The data set was already compiled as well. I also wanted to work on a project where I had a strong understanding of the problem and of the data nuances. The study that I chose to do was to develop a predictive model to identify CSU Pueblo students who are at risk of attrition. The goal is to identify them as early as possible upon their arrival at campus. Retention is defined nationally by the National Center for Education Statistics. It's based on the retention cohort, which is comprised of full-time students who enroll in college for the first time during the fall semester. And then retention rate is calculated as the percentage of those students who return for the following fall. CSU Pueblo has an opportunity for improvements. Compared to our peer institutions, our retention rate is consistently lower. We average between 63 and 68%, while the median rate of our peer institutions is 70%. By impacting retention, we can also have an impact on other longer-term student success measures, such as graduation rates. CSU Pueblo is a regional comprehensive university located in southeastern Colorado. Regional comprehensives are designed to increase college access. They have moderate admission selectivity, which tends to draw in disadvantaged groups such as minorities, first-generation students, and lower-income students. Regional comprehensives emphasize professional programs that meet the needs of the surrounding community, such as nursing, business, teachers' education, and social work. CSU Pueblo has almost 4,000 students. It is designated as a Hispanic serving institution, which means it has a high percentage of students who are Hispanic and are eligible for Pell Grants. Pell Grants are an indicator of low-income families. In addition, about a third of our students are first generation, which means that neither parent completed a four-year college degree. Approximately a quarter of students at CSU Pueblo are non-traditional, which means they're aged 25 years or older. There's a significant amount of literature that's identified various factors related to retention. Student characteristics such as academic preparation and motivation have been shown to be tied to student success. Also, their past academic performance, such as their high school grades, and other measures such as aptitude have been tied to retention. First-year experiences inside and outside of the classroom are significant predictors of retention, so it's really important that students are engaged and involved in the learning environment as well as in co-curricular activities during their first year. There's a negative correlation between financial need and retention, which means that as financial need grows, students are less likely to be retained at an institution. Some types of financial assistance, such as scholarships and grants, can help mitigate these risks, although other types of financial assistance, such as loans, are less likely to mitigate the negative correlation between need and retention. In addition to all the typical challenges that students at universities face, Those who are enrolled at regional comprehensives have additional struggles. They may try to be navigating a system that's unfamiliar and without experienced parents. They may be slower to make connections with peers and faculty. They are less likely to seek out support services that are designed to help them succeed, and they may struggle more to meet the financial burden of college. There are 2 research questions associated with this project. The first question is designed to look at whether there are reliable predictors of retention based on the data that's available on students' first day of class. So things that are available from their application for admission, including high school GPA, their demographic characteristics, their financial need and aid package, whether they're living on campus, whether they're in-state or out-of-state students. There actually is quite a bit of data that's known about the students, and this first question gets at whether a good predictive model can be developed based on those factors. The second question looks at whether the first semester academic performance, such as the GPA in the fall term, can improve the prediction of retention rates over the prediction that was made in Model 1. A logistic regression was conducted for this project. There's a binary outcome measure, which is retention, and it's coded as a yes-no. So logistic regression is the proper statistic among linear regression options. 4 retention cohorts were selected using 2014 through 2017. Those cohorts had a combined number of 3,165 participants. 21 predictors were added to the first model, and then 24 predictors were added in the second model. So all of the same predictors from the first one were in the second model, and then 3 measures of academic performance in the first semester were added to the second logistic regression. The project was analyzed using SPSS, and Tableau was used to graph the data. Several data transformations were done with some of the variables, including region, which was coded into several dichotomous variables. Region is the area of the country where students are from. Age was also recoded into a dichotomous variable with a split of 20 and above. SAT scores were converted to ACT scores, and the financial variables were converted to 5,000 per unit so that it would be easier to interpret the logistic regression results. I explored multicollinearity, and as a result, 3 variables were excluded. I had to address missing data. I decided to leave 3 cases that were missing term GPA alone, and so they would be excluded from the second logistic regression. Some of the financial aid variables that were missing data were recoded to 0, and where they did not receive any aid, and then the mean was imputed for the other variables that were missing data. What I found in the first model was that 10 predictors were significant. These included first-generation athletes, students that lived in Colorado, students that lived in the United States, those that lived in on-campus housing, students that had an undeclared major, students that had a higher GPA in high school, had better retention. Cost of attendance, unmet financial need, and need-based aid were also significant predictors in the first analysis. In the second model, there were also 10 predictors that were significant. All of the same ones from the initial day were significant, except first generation was no longer a predictor, and term GPA was a significant predictor. Therefore, it can be concluded that the null hypothesis for each analysis was rejected and the alternate was accepted. Retention can be reliably predicted from data that's available on the first day of class, and data that's gained in the first semester, primarily GPA, does improve the prediction of that model. On this slide, you can see a scatter plot. What I did was plot the probability scores the students had on the first day of class, and those are on the y-axis, and I plotted those against probability scores on the last day of class, or at the end of the semester, and those are on the x-axis. In the upper right quadrant, you can see the probability scores are closely clustered, which means there wasn't a lot of variation between the two predictive scores, and they tend to be mostly yellow, which means they were retained, and that's what they were predicted to do. On the lower end, they are more scattered, which means they're less likely to have the same score at time 1 and time 2, and they're less likely to be retained, as you can see with the red dots. The bar chart shows the percent of students at each range on the initial predictive score who were retained and not retained. So you can see at the low end, say 0.1 to 0.19 probability score, 96% of those students were not retained. In conclusion, this study found that there was adequate data to be able to predict freshman retention from variables that are available on the first day of class, even though freshmen are widely perceived as unknown entities on their first day. Based on the results of this study, different strategies may need to be employed to interrupt the trajectory of students who are at risk of attrition. Some may need academic support if they're evidencing low GPA, either their high school GPA or their fall term GPA. Others may need assistance with campus engagements, especially those that are living on campus and maybe from out of state. Others may need financial support if they have large amounts of unmet financial need. This study had a few limitations. Most notably, it relied only on quantitative data. Qualitative data may be useful to help understand why students leave, which would also help to understand the results of these findings better. It's recommended that the types of data used in this predictive model be expanded in order to increase its accuracy. The data in this model was limited largely to students' characteristics and to academic performance, but there may be things such as student engagement and data off the National Student Clearinghouse about where students are going to when they leave CSU Pueblo that could help bring depth to these types of analyses. It's recommended that attrition risk be monitored on an ongoing basis, not only on the first day of the semester, but also during grade checks at various points during the semester and at the end of the semester, as well as during the spring semester. And it is also recommended to expand the types of data mining and predictive analytic efforts that are being done here in order to improve the accuracy of prediction. And lastly, the recommendation would be that the research office works with university leadership and staff to take the research findings from this study and to put them into practice, and to continually monitor and improve the model. Thank you for your time and attention.